The life and career of Vladimir Putin, a figure who has dominated the Russian political scene for decades, is the subject of this video. From his early days as a KGB officer to his multiple terms as President of Russia, the path that led to his powerful position is explored. This is a look at the key moments and decisions that have shaped Vladimir Putin's leadership and Russia's role on the world stage. Part 1: Early Life and Path to Power. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin was born on 7th October 1952 in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, Russia. He grew up in a small apartment with his parents. His father was a factory worker and a former soldier, and his mother was a kind and caring woman who worked hard to support the family. Life was tough after World War II, and Putin grew up in difficult conditions. As a child, Putin was quiet but determined. He was interested in martial arts, especially judo and sambo, and trained hard to become a skilled fighter. He also enjoyed spy novels and action movies. From a young age, he wanted to join the KGB, the Soviet Union's secret intelligence agency. Putin studied law at Leningrad State University and graduated in 1975. During college, he joined the Communist Party, as most people did at that time. After graduation, his dream came true. He joined the KGB. He worked as an intelligence officer, mostly in East Germany during the Cold War. His job involved gathering information and making connections, but he lived a quiet and disciplined life. When the Soviet Union began to collapse in the late 1980s, Putin saw many changes. In 1990, he returned to Leningrad and started working with his former professor, Anatoly Sobchak, who became the mayor. Putin helped organize the city's foreign relations and later became Sobchak's deputy. This gave him experience in administration and politics. After Sobchak lost re-election in 1996, Putin moved to Moscow. There, he quickly climbed the political ladder. He joined the presidential administration and worked closely with President Boris Yeltsin. Putin was known for being smart, calm, and efficient. In 1998, he became the head of the FSB, the modern version of the KGB. A year later, he was named Prime Minister of Russia. In 1999, President Yeltsin resigned suddenly and named Putin as the acting president. Most Russians didn't know much about Putin, but they saw him as strong and serious. In 2000, Putin won the presidential election and officially became the president of Russia. Part 2: Rise as a strong leader. When Putin took office in 2000, Russia was going through a tough time. The country had faced economic problems, political instability, and the loss of power after the Soviet Union's collapse. Putin promised to bring order, strength, and pride back to Russia. One of his first challenges was the Chechen conflict. Chechnya, a region in southern Russia, was fighting for independence. Putin took a hard approach and launched military actions to bring Chechnya back under Russian control. His tough response won him support from many Russians who wanted peace and order. Putin also worked to improve the economy. Russia's economy grew quickly in the 2000s, helped by high prices for oil and gas, which are major Russian exports. Putin used this wealth to pay off debts, build infrastructure, and increase government control over important industries. Many Russians saw their lives improve during this time, and Putin became very popular. He also brought stability to politics. He reduced the power of regional leaders, strengthened the central government, and gained control over major TV channels and media outlets. Critics said he was limiting freedom and weakening democracy, but his supporters believed he was protecting Russia from chaos. In 2004, Putin was re-elected with a big majority. However, according to the Russian constitution, he could only serve 2 terms in a row. So in 2008, he stepped down as president, and his close ally, Dmitry Medvedev, became the new president. Putin became prime minister again but remained the most powerful figure in Russia. In 2012, Putin returned to the presidency after the constitution was changed to allow longer terms. His 3rd term began with mass protests in big cities. People were angry about election fairness and lack of freedom. But Putin remained firm. He spoke about returning Russia to its former glory and protecting it from foreign influence. One of his biggest and most controversial actions came in 2014. After a revolution in Ukraine, Russia took control of Crimea, a region that had been part of Ukraine. Many countries around the world called this act illegal, but in Russia, it was seen as a move to protect Russians and Russian interests. Putin's popularity soared after this, and people called him a national hero. However, the move led to sanctions from Western countries, which hurt the Russian economy. Putin responded by turning Russia more toward Asia, especially China, and encouraging local businesses. He also promoted ideas of patriotism, Russian culture, and traditional values. Under Putin, Russia became more active on the world stage. It got involved in Syria's civil war, supporting President Bashar al-Assad. Russia's military actions changed the balance in Syria and showed that Russia was still a global power. At the same time, Putin often criticized the United States and NATO, saying they were trying to weaken Russia. While many admired Putin for rebuilding Russia's strength, others worried about growing authoritarianism, less freedom of speech, and harsh treatment of opposition leaders. Journalists and critics often faced threats, arrest, or wars. One of the most well-known critics, Alexei Navalny, was jailed after accusing Putin of corruption. Part 3. Modern Russia and Putin's legacy. In recent years, Putin has continued to hold strong control over Russia. In 2018, he won another presidential election. But by this time, the Russian economy was slowing and public protests were growing. People were becoming frustrated over rising prices, low wages, and government corruption. In 2020, a major change happened. Putin's government passed constitutional reforms that allowed him to stay in power until 2036. This move was supported by parliament and approved in a national vote, though critics said the vote was unfair. Many people believed Putin would remain in power for many more years. Then in 2022, a major conflict shocked the world. Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Putin claimed it was to protect Russian-speaking people and to stop NATO expansion. But most of the world saw it as an aggressive attack. Countries around the world responded with harsh sanctions, cutting Russia off from trade and financial systems. The war led to thousands of deaths and huge destruction. Millions of Ukrainians had to leave their homes. Inside Russia, the government increased censorship, blocked Western media, and punished people who protested the war. Still, many Russians continued to support Putin, believing in his message of national pride and security. As the war dragged on, Russia faced economic troubles. Prices of goods rose, foreign companies left, and people felt the pressure. But Putin kept his firm position. He said Russia would never surrender to outside pressure and that the West was trying to destroy Russia's way of life. Throughout his time in power, Putin has shaped Russia into a centralized, strong state. He has promoted a picture of himself as a tough, smart, and fearless leader. He often appears shirtless in outdoor photos, rides horses, swims in icy waters, and shows his athletic side to appear strong to the public. But his rule has also brought fewer democratic rights, a tightly controlled media, and little space for opposition. Russia has moved away from Western ideas of democracy and followed a more nationalist and conservative path. Putin's personal life remains mostly private. He was married to Lyudmila Putina, and they have 2 daughters. They divorced in 2013. Putin rarely speaks about his family in public. Today, Vladimir Putin is one of the most powerful and controversial leaders in the world. Some people admire him for defending Russia's interests and bringing back national pride. Others criticize him for controlling freedom, silencing critics, and leading aggressive policies. Whether people see him as a protector of Russia or a threat to peace, there is no doubt that Putin has left a huge mark on modern history. He changed Russia's path, challenged the global order, and led his country through major events, wars, economic shifts, and political transformation. If this story inspired you, please hit like, share, and subscribe button. For more extraordinary stories.